You've seen her before, haven't you? Staring at you from the cover of a YouTube playlist or blinking from behind an anime gif scrolling by on Twitter. This character that whispers to us like some vague cultural artifact from a time long past. Lain is someone that everybody has seen, but so few people know or understand. Long before we traded our attention spans for dopamine hits and algorithms learned to read our minds, she saw it all coming. The internet we're in today isn't just like the one she lived in, it is the one she lived in. Lain isn't just some old aesthetic, she was a prophecy. Lain found me at a strange time in my life. I was in my third year of university, staying up until 2 in the morning trying to finish my computer science assignments. I was always exhausted, bags under my eyes and cold mugs of coffee on my desk. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to throw on some retro anime to try and relax. If you've ever been in a similar headspace to the one I was in at that time, you'll understand why this show resonated with me so strongly. From the very first episode, I was hooked. Not by the story, not really. It barely holds your hand, barely explains itself, but by the vibe. The show is constantly drowning you in silence or trapping the viewer in liminal space. I enjoyed the early sections of this show in a similar way to how I enjoyed watching The Shining, but the more I watched and researched about the series, the more I began to find it quietly horrifying. Not in the fun horror movie way, but in a this is too real kind of way. Like someone was banging on the inside of my monitor, screaming a warning that myself and everyone I knew had already ignored. Lain herself has become what I would describe as a cultural phantom, in a sense that so many people online know about her, but so few have actually seen the show. GIFs and short clips from the show always do numbers, but if you asked a lot of these people what it was actually about, they'd probably just shrug. For as much as I like this series, even I'm willing to admit that it's slow and hard to understand. It doesn't stop to explain much and always just continues on, with little care given to if the viewer even comprehended what just happened. It's definitely not an easy watch, but I would still recommend that you check it out yourself regardless, if only for the vibe of it. And also because I'll be spoiling the entire anime over the course of this video. Serial Experiments Lain is, in the simplest terms, a 13-episode anime about a young girl who uploads herself to the internet and becomes a god. Now, that's a gross oversimplification, but it's enough understanding for what we're going to talk about today. To me, its main themes are connection to everyone leading to isolation, splitting personality through different online personas, and regular people achieving godhood through internet notoriety. Now, to someone watching this in the current year, those themes probably don't sound very groundbreaking. I'm sure you've seen Black Mirror do it a dozen times.
Oh, bloody hell, what if the telly was evil? God save the Queen!
But this anime came out in 1998. And for reference, MySpace didn't launch until 2003. The show wasn't just ahead of the curve, it's more like it drew the curve. The way the show predicted so many of the issues that plague my generation is honestly pretty chilling. So let's break it all down. Our protagonist, Lain, is a quiet and socially isolated child. She lives at home with her angsty older sister, emotionally distant mother, and tech-obsessed father. She does have a few friends, but they have to practically drag her out of the house to do anything with her.
I bet there's a really fun girl inside that shell you're wrapped up in, just dying to get out. Right, Lain?
Lain isn't mistreated or abused, but she's disconnected. She's someone whose life is quiet and unremarkable. Someone who feels like something's missing, but can't quite put her finger on what. That's when The Wired enters the story. It's a fictional technology that connects all people together through the sharing of information. Effectively, it's Lain's version of the internet. And as Lain integrates with The Wired, her entire world opens up. She connects to countless other people, drastically expanding her world. The Wired allows her to meet a lot of other characters and introduces her to most of the main plot lines in the show. There's a real sense as you watch the changes in her behavior that The Wired seems to be the first place where Lain actually feels any real sense of belonging. But immersing herself in The Wired doesn't get rid of Lain's isolation. Her family grows distant, watching her from her bedroom door as she drifts further and further away from them. Her friends grow concerned with her behavior, and she's so immersed in her own world that she doesn't even care.
Just what do you mean? You see them on the wire? No, a net pal isn't a friend. I mean, it shouldn't even be considered an acquaintance. Anyway, Lain, tell us what kind of sites you've been connecting to lately.
It's a secret.
Things progress to the point where her online lifestyle and disconnection from the real world brings out a darker side of herself, which pushes away one of the last real human connections she still has. Now, I've got a question for you. Have you ever seen those memes where the guy disconnects from the voice call with his buddies and he instantly gets hit with a big wave of emptiness? I have, and I've always found them really relatable, but never really understood why. I mean, you always get that feeling of sadness when you turn off your PC at 3 a.m. after a late night of gaming with your friends. The thing is that I've never felt like this after just hanging out with people at their place, like ordering a pizza and watching a movie. After some reflection, I now believe it's because as fun as gaming online with the boys is, it's not a substitute for real conversation. While it may feel like you're spending time with friends, the harsh reality is that you are sitting alone in a dark room staring at a glowing TV or computer screen. The second your call ends, you're instantly reminded of that. That's why it feels like connection until it doesn't anymore. I'm not saying online friends and gathering spaces are worthless or should be avoided. I'm just saying I don't think they're a proper replacement for real people in real life. And just to reiterate, this is a story that was told at a time where the term chronically online was still decades away from being thrown around regularly. Lain's story shows just how dangerous it can be to start treating your digital presence like a replacement for reality. Because when we do, we risk losing the real people around us, just like she did. As the series continues onwards and Lain becomes more and more entwined with the Wired, we start to see her personality change a bit. There's the shy, quiet Lain we start the series with who exists in real life, but then we meet the version of Lain who lives in the Wired. She's confident, bold, and inquisitive. It's clear that embodying an online persona allows Lain to become someone that she isn't able to in real life. And for a bit, this seems like a good thing, but it doesn't last. The empowerment she feels early on in the anime quickly takes a darker turn, because the more Lain slips into her digital self, the harder it becomes for her to tell which version is actually her. Her identity starts to splinter. She becomes unpredictable, inconsistent. Different people begin to see different Lains, and sometimes she doesn't even recognize herself. It's not just duality anymore, it becomes a full-on fragmentation of her personality. There's this old clip from the show online that's become quite popular. It's from a scene late in the series where Lain speaks directly to the viewer and questions which version of herself is the real one.
I guess that I'm confused again. Am I here or am I there? I don't know. Over there, I'm everywhere. I know that, but here is connected to over there. Is that right? But then where is the real me after all is said and done?
The thing that disturbed me here wasn't the clip itself, but instead what people were saying about it.
I'm in Lain era again.
Trying to reconcile my several personalities I crafted for different friend groups and online forums.
Going through my Lain phase. Let me become a digital martyr real quick.
I'm having an identity crisis and this is my biggest comfort right now.
She's just like me for real.
Of course, some of these people are joking, but some of them aren't. And to me, that was pretty chilling. What Lain is going through is awful. She's losing her sense of self as she falls further and further down this online rabbit hole. Why would anyone want to identify with that? I couldn't believe anybody would look at Lain and go, oh my god, she's literally me. But then again, why shouldn't they? I mean, think about your own online presence. There's the quiet you that's on YouTube right now, probably watching this video on your computer or your phone by yourself. There's the sarcastic and angry you that rage baits people on Twitter. The unhinged two-brain cell Twitch chatter you. The please hire me, I swear to God I'm normal you on your LinkedIn profile. Hell, there's probably a you that joined your class or meeting this morning with your microphone muted and your camera turned off so you could scroll TikTok or Instagram Reels the whole time. And there's so many more. They're all you, of course, but not completely. We slide into these online personas and embody them for acceptance in different spaces from different people. I know I do. While most of America was still on dial-up internet, the people who wrote this show realized that we're allowed to be anyone we want online. But this fact is one hell of a double-edged sword. The modern internet gives us all these mirrors we get to see ourselves in, but so few of them are honest. The deeper Lain slips into the wired, the more she grows. Not just emotionally or mentally, but metaphysically as well. This change isn't linear either, it spikes. Episode by episode, her power snowballs, expanding with an eerie, almost unnatural momentum. What starts as a quiet curiosity, a shy girl tinkering with her computer, becomes something far more terrifying. Lain doesn't just browse the wired anymore, she is the wired. She becomes omnipresent, ubiquitous. She's everywhere and nowhere, simultaneously online and offline, both watching and being watched. Characters in the show begin to recognize her before she even speaks. Strangers know her name. But what's more disturbing is that this power doesn't stay confined to the virtual world. Eventually, it begins to bleed into the real world as well. Lain's godhood spills from behind the screen and into physical reality. When this happens, she starts to reshape it, warp it, rewriting people's memories, altering timelines, and bending the world to her liking. By the time we realize what's happening, it's too late. Lain has ascended into something beyond human comprehension. She's not just a girl anymore, she's a myth. The kind of thing you hear about in urban legends or whispered warnings on forum posts at 3 in the morning. A digital deity born from chat logs, static, and the quiet hum of servers. Now, I'm sure all this sounds quite far-fetched and fantastical, but we have our own online gods too. Nowadays, internet personalities like YouTubers and streamers have become monolithic in size and influence, inspiring massively dedicated and often borderline obsessed fan bases. Calling these people simple entertainers doesn't feel right anymore. They're more like cultural landmarks. Watching footage of an IRL streamer getting mobbed by rabid fans while visiting a country he isn't even from is pretty insane. When Lain first aired, most Americans were still using AOL Instant Messenger as their prime form of online communication. I wonder how these people would react if you could go back and show them this footage now. I don't think they'd believe it. It would look like religion. We might sometimes ask what our friends think about a new topic, but we'll always check what our favorite creators posted about it. A friend of mine once told me about a guy who won't give his opinion on a new album until Anthony Fantano reviews it, because he's scared of being wrong. But while regular people have used the internet to achieve levels of worship previously thought exclusive only to celebrities, lately it's become clear that the real gods of the internet aren't biological, they're mechanical. The content people consume is being decided less and less by personal taste or word of mouth, and instead by the suggestion of algorithms. The machine itself shows us what we want to see next, and sometimes seems to know us even better than we know ourselves. On YouTube, I see comments all the time of people thanking the algorithm for giving them good video recommendations. And the crazy thing is that never even seems strange to me. I've even left comments like that myself. Worse still, as artificial intelligence evolves, we're getting closer and closer to a world where even thinking becomes optional. You don't have to draft your email, ChatGPT will write it for you. You don't need to plan your meals, or think up a workout regimen, or brainstorm ideas for your classroom. Just ask, just click. Why wrestle with uncertainty when something else already knows what you want? So while Serial Experiments Lain predicted how a single person could rise to godlike status through digital influence, I don't think even its writers could have imagined how far we'd actually fall. Because it's not just about one person anymore, it's about surrendering control, not to a charismatic voice in the wired, but to something colder, less human. Something that never sleeps and never speaks, but still runs everything. When I first had the idea for this video, I had originally planned for an ending that would have been far colder and more cynical. At the end of this series, when Lain deletes herself to save the world, I wanted to compare this to a person dying in real life, saying that despite the noble self-sacrifice that Lain performs, it's a fantasy that isn't possible anymore. Nowadays, we all leave digital ghosts behind. At least in terms of the internet, nobody ever really dies. No matter how hard you try, everyone knows you can't really remove yourself from an online space anymore. People like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast, love them or hate them, they've achieved something close to internet immortality. They'll outlive trends, platforms, maybe even the people who first made them famous. So that was gonna be my point, that Lain's ending was poetic but impossible. A relic of an era where you could still walk away, still hit delete, and have it actually mean something. But then I watched the show again, and I was struck by something else. Something more human. See, near the end of the series, when Lain is at her absolute most online, when she is essentially a god connected to the entire human subconscious and doing the most damage to everyone around her, there's this moment where Lain's friend Alice comes to her house to visit her. She can't really understand what's actually going on, but she can tell Lain is suffering and hurting the people around her, and she wants to know why. And despite everything that's happened, all the isolation and trauma, this one genuine connection with another person is enough to snap her out of it, to make her realize that the wired isn't the answer to all her problems. The answer is right in front of her. It's her friend. And this ended up being the most powerful moment of the show for me. That in a series about how the interconnectedness of the modern day makes people lose the things that make them human, it stops to remind you that, in actuality, we can hold on to the real connections to people around us, and that can keep us human instead. If you're lucky enough to have at least one person like this in your life, I think you should cherish and hold on to them. Because in a world that's quickly devolving into meaningless noise and parasocial relationships, a genuine bond with another person is the best thing we still have. And that's where I want to end this video. Not with bitterness or resignation, but with a reminder that despite what it may feel like, just remember, you're not lost, you're just reaching. And if you ever find someone reaching back, you should do what you can to hold on to them. Hey, what's up? Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. This video was a really fun project for me. If I sound different at all in this video, it's because I got a new microphone and I have no idea what I'm doing. If you're feeling some existential dread because of the things I've said today and want some advice on how to navigate our current online hellscape, then I'd like to recommend you read Digital Minimalism by Carl Newport. No one paid me to say this, but I believe this book has a lot of really good advice for using tech in a healthy way. If your attention span is too fried to actually finish a book, there's always the audiobook version as well. Anyways, I'm Elephant Steak. Thanks for watching. More videos on the way, so stay tuned.